Many of you have tried to think your way out of fear, out of pain, out of lack, out of that gray confusion that seems to sit on the chest in the small hours. And for a moment, a good argument looks as if it wins. For a moment. And then the mind changes the subject, and the worry returns in a new costume. And the debate starts again. You win the point at 10 o'clock and lose it at noon. And by evening, the same old ghost is back tapping at the window. Do you see that? The human mind will always take the last word because it has an endless supply of words. And if you meet it on its turf, if you match premise for premise, reason for reason, it will loop you until you are too tired to pray. Now listen, and listen gently. The outer life does not yield to argument. It does not yield to pushing, insisting, pleading, bargaining, or scolding. It yields to contact. When the inner center is touched, when there is a click, a quiet shift, an opening that you do not make but that makes itself, then the outer picture begins to reform of its own accord. The conduct? It improves. The health? It is quickened. The supply? It finds channels you did not design. And you did not wrestle with any of these. You did not stand over the field telling the crops how to grow. You made contact with the life, and life carried its own law into visibility. Leave the effects alone. Find the cause in here. But remember this, and never forget it. It doesn't come by asking God to come down and mend your affairs, as if God were a superintendent on call. It doesn't come by pleading or promising or striking a bargain. No, it comes by actually making contact with God. And I say to you, out of a heart full of love, out of years of watching our students make demonstration, and of watching them fail only when they slipped back into asking, there is no such God as the one you must persuade. Stop such nonsense. God is not an absentee power waiting to be convinced by your reasons. God is the life itself, the very life of your being, closer to you than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Do you see that? So here is the promise, and we are going to keep it simple enough that you can do it even while you listen. We are going to make a live experiment. Not tomorrow, not after you fix your temper or balance your books. Now. We will use one phrase, so simple a child could carry it through a storm. And we will use it not to get anything, not to rearrange any condition, but to come into contact. And when contact is there, you will know it, because something inside will stop arguing. There will be a letting go, a quietness that does not depend on evidence. In this hour, while you sit where you are, begin to turn from the outer picture and the mind's chatter, and prepare to rest in the simplest of truths. God is. Say it softly within yourself, and we will watch the outer life start to listen. Now let us be very plain about the condition we are coming out of, because if you do not name it, you will keep wrestling shadows. What do I mean by trance? I mean the common hypnosis that says you are a separate self living in a separate world, with a separate God somewhere else to whom you must appeal for occasional help. It is the spell of distance, the dream of time, the fiction of two powers. It is the quiet, constant suggestion in the human scene that sometimes there is a good power working for you, and sometimes an evil power working against you. And you, poor soul, are the little negotiator in between, who must bargain, strive, and outthink both fate and devil. Do you see that? This two-power belief is the engine of all our suffering. God over there, trouble over here. Health today, sickness tomorrow. Supply in June, lack in October. And you whip yourself to run faster between poles that have no reality in God. Now watch how the trance parades as prudence. You find yourself compulsively planning 3 scenarios for every hour of tomorrow, rehearsing conversations you may never have, drafting clever replies in the night so you can win an argument that won't occur. Do you see that? You narrate fear to yourself as if the telling of it could safeguard you, measuring your spiritual progress at breakfast and condemning yourself by lunch because the mood changed. You keep an inner ledger, 1 point for a good meditation, -2 for impatience. And at the end of the day, you present a report to a deity you imagine is somewhere reading grades. That is trance. That is the mind playing both judge and defendant, both disease and remedy. Never forget this. The trance is not your personal failure. It isn't your private sin. It is an impersonal mesmerism, woven into language, schooling, advertising, even religion, whispering that God is absent and must be fetched, that evil is substance and must be slain, that time is Lord and must be served. Oh no, stop such nonsense, and stop such nonsensical religious teachings. There is no God far off to be coaxed into attendance, and there are not 2 powers operating in your life. The kingdom of God is within you, and there is only one. Do you see that? Because it is impersonal, you cannot whip it with willpower, nor purify it with personal virtue. You may polish the dream, but it remains a dream. The trance breaks by realization, not by self-improvement, by light, not by muscle. Awakening begins here. You notice the assumption of separation when it arises, and you refuse to serve it. You hear the mind announce 2 powers, and you quietly deny it its office. You find yourself measuring, bargaining, defending, and you stop for a breath and say, "Not my little life struggling between opposites, but one life being itself." Hold this gently. We are not adding a better argument to the pile. We are withdrawing obedience from a false premise. In that refusal, space opens. In that space, contact becomes possible. And as contact dawns, you will discover in your own experience that where you thought there were 2, there is only one, closer to you than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Then the nightmare can no longer recruit you, because you will not report for duty in a war that does not exist in God. Now we come to the point where all the words may rest and one word may work. There is only one thing you ever have to know to be in prayer. God is. Not God will, not God might, not God please. God is. This is not a thesis to be proved or a religion to be sold. It is being itself stated without embroidery, a present fact acknowledged without demand. Do you see that? The mind wants reasons and sequences and charts of how this fixes the body and how that amends the bank account. Oh no, stop such nonsense. We are not trafficking in arguments here. We are standing in a fact that does not consult time or distance or worthiness. God is not theology. It is contact. It is not the promise of a future act from a distant deity. It is the recognition of presence as the life of your life now. Closer to you than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. I am that I am is not a phrase from an old book to admire. It is the character of reality announcing itself in the only tense God knows. Is. When you say, God is, you are not summoning a power to travel from somewhere to here. You are consenting to what already is here and cannot depart. Never forget this. To say God is to drop the tools of negotiation and stand on holy ground, even if you are in a kitchen, even if you are on a hospital cot, even if your pockets are empty. The place whereon thou standest is holy ground, because God is. Now the mind can borrow these two words and rattle them like a charm, and nothing much happens except a slight fatigue. That is mental agreement. That is the old debater trying a new slogan. But realization is another thing altogether. Realization is when the words turn from sound to silence inside you, and something lets go that you did not let go. The shoulders soften, the breath evens, the hurry loosens its grip, and you know, without a single petition, that presence is here. The proof isn't in an argument you win. The proof is that the need to argue vanishes. Do you see that? You are not made triumphant over a problem. You are released from the premise that there was a power apart from God to be opposed. So we use God is as we would use a key, not to convince God to open a door, but to unlock the room we accidentally locked from the inside. We are not persuading the infinite to be more present. We are dislodging the false assumption in us that presence comes and goes, that grace is scheduled, that supply is conditional, that health is a bargain. Each gentle returning to God is withdraws faith from absence and hands it back to isness. And little by little, or suddenly if it so pleases, effort gives way to awareness, and awareness flowers into assurance. Do not argue with effects. Do not time your realization with a clock. Rest the thought, repeat the truth, and let the truth announce itself. God is. If you will abide there, quietly, faithfully, even awkwardly at first, you will discover that prayer is not a performance, but a contact. And that contact requires no proof, because in the light of is, the shadow has no case to plead. Now here is where I must be very plain, because this is the very habit that seems devout, and yet starves the soul. No amount of praying to a God up in heaven to come down here and repair your body, or your purse, or your friend, is even worth the time it takes up. Do you see that? Not because prayer is useless, oh no, but because that kind of praying keeps God far away in your own premise. You are telling yourself, I am here without, God is there with, and good must travel across distance and time to reach me. And that, right there, is the trance speaking. That is separation on its knees. Watch the subtlety of it. God, please heal me. God, send supply. God, make them change. In every plea there is a confession you do not mean to make. I am apart. I am lacking. Life is elsewhere and must be imported. The moment you accept that lie, you must also accept a second lie. Sometimes the ship arrives and sometimes it does not, and you are left to bargain for fair weather. Oh, stop such nonsense, and stop such nonsensical religious teachings. There are not two powers, one for you, one against you. There is one, and it is not commuting from heaven to earth on your schedule. So what do? We drop petition and we make contact. Don't pray for things. Pray for a realization of God. Seek first, not the fixing of effects. Seek the kingdom of God within you, and then, in the proportion of realization, These things appear as added, unlabored harmonies. When there is contact, actually contact, with the presence that is closer to you than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, the outer picture begins to reform of itself. Health quickens. Supply shows channels you never engineered. Relationships soften, not because you begged an absent deity, but because grace in here is the law of life out there. Do you see that? Now here is a practical check you can make of yourself any hour of the day. If you come out of prayer tense, bargaining, timing God with a clock, measuring results with a ruler, if you are still waiting for the ship, your prayer hasn't crossed over into contact. You have rehearsed the trance. But if you come out of prayer quiet, unhurried, inwardly convinced without a single petition that, I am not alone. If the center of your attention has shifted off your problem and even off your little self and into a soft awareness of presence, then you are nearing it. There may be no fireworks, but there will be assurance. The need to plead will have lost its voice. Therefore, when the mind rushes to compose a list for heaven, let it stop mid-sentence and turn to the simplest truth. God is. Whisper it, not to get anything, but to let the machinery of asking wind down to stillness. Say it until something in you lets go that you did not let go. And when that quiet arrives, leave the outer alone. Asking assumes separation. Realizing God is dissolves the distance and breaks the spell at its root. Then grace, unopposed, will do what grace always does: reform the outer life in the image of the inner light. Now let us do it. Not tomorrow, not when your room is quieter or your calendar is empty. Now. Sit easily, or stand if you like. There is no posture in God. Let the shoulders drop just a little. Let the jaw unhook. Let the breath be what it is. Do not count it. Do not direct it. We are not training the breath to get God. We are letting the body know it is safe to rest because God is. Close the eyes if that helps, or soften the gaze. And very gently, almost as if you were speaking to a frightened bird in your palms, say inwardly, God is. God is. God is. Do not force meaning into the words. Do not squeeze them until they drip. We are not using words to create truth. We are using truth to dissolve words and their hypnotism. Do you see that? The phrase is not a wand to wave at conditions. It is a key that fits a lock you did not know you were holding shut. God is. God is. And if the mind runs ahead to ask, will this fix me? Will this change Tuesday? Say, oh no. Stop such nonsense. We are not here for Tuesday. We are here for is. Return to it. God is. Nearer than hands and feet, closer to you than breathing. Now the mind will try to argue. It will bring you a docket of past failures, a weather report of future fears. Do not argue back. The minute you accept the debate, you have rejoined the trance on its own turf, and it has an endless vocabulary. Instead, lay the brief down and answer it with one thing only. God is. If fear spikes, do not analyze its genealogy. If a memory stings, do not narrate it. If a bodily ache speaks, do not scold it. Return to the one truth that requires no proof. God is. God is. Patiently, quietly, faithfully. What do I mean by until something lets go? You will know. The commentary will thin. The body will soften without your telling it to. The urgency that was pacing in your chest will lose interest in its own story. You will forget that you were timing yourself. The need to check the problem will grow shy and step back. There may be a single uncaused breath that feels like a wider room. There may be a tenderness as if someone has arrived, only to discover the someone was the life of your life all along. Do you see that? No petition has been made, and yet assurance is present. Notice the smallness of the signs. A moment of stillness. A widening that has no direction. A quiet statement inside that does not speak in words. I am carried. The outer picture may not have budged yet, but you are no longer arranging shadows. You are consenting to light. Stay there a minute more. God is. Be still and know it. Not forcing, not bargaining, not promising. Just is. Carry this into the day in little sips, between telephone rings, at the curb, in a corridor. Place the mind back on the altar with 2 soft words until it loosens its fist. God is. And when the letting go comes, actually comes, leave the outer alone. Contact is cause, grace is law. Then watch, without watching too hard, as the picture yields to the presence from which it came. Do you see that? Now, what does it feel like, actually feel like, when contact is present? Not fireworks, not a trumpet. Assurance. A quiet certainty that is not optimism about tomorrow, not a human forecast of good weather, but a present knowing without reasons. Do you see that? Optimism is the mind's bright guess. Assurance is presence recognized. Optimism can be scared off by a headline. Assurance does not consult headlines. It rests in is. You will notice first the end of bargaining. The little voice that says, if only, when, please just this once, loses force. And in its place there is a simple recognition. Thou art here. Not, come, be here. Not, stay with me if I am good. But, even now, thou art. Closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. This is the tone of the Psalms when they are prayer in spirit and not in poetry alone. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thou art with me. Not a petition in it. No plan submitted for approval, no schedule to keep God punctual. Only recognition. Do you see that? In contact, peace does not mean you have pushed thoughts down under the rug of the will. Oh no, that is suppression, and it breeds a rebound. Suppression is a hand on the mouth of fear while fear keeps breathing in the dark. Contact is seeing through fear, and because you see through it, because you recognize no power apart from God, the fear loses authority. It may whisper once or twice, but you will hear at the same time a deeper current saying without words, I am. I am life. I am safety. I am supply. And you discover that you do not have to answer every thought with a counter thought. You rest, and the unreal falls of itself. You will know you are tasting it when self-will loosens. The urge to manage every outcome relaxes. The shoulders stand down from their post. The clock on the wall stops being a tyrant. You are not promised a dramatic sensation. You are given a definite lessening of the "I must" and a fading of the "what if." Do you see that? That is assurance. Without a single petition, the atmosphere of you changes from strain to trust. You are not indifferent. You are surrendered. Nevertheless, thy will be done, not as resignation but as relief, because you have felt that will as love. Sometimes a phrase rises of itself. The place where I stand is holy ground. Or the remembrance comes, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. And you notice again, not a request in it, recognition only. The room may still be the hospital room, the bill may still be on the table, the relationship may still be tender and sore, yet the inner weather has changed. The sun is not arguing with the cloud. It is simply there, and the cloud thins because it cannot withstand is. Keep watch on this. If you come away needing to measure and bargain, you have rehearsed the trance. If you come away quiet, unhurried, inwardly sure without a single demand, contact has touched you. Hold there a minute more. God is. Let that recognition be the prayer, and let grace, which is the law of life, proceed from it. Assurance has this further secret in it. It does not point you to a God across a field to be fetched. It points you to a presence already here. And the here it points to is not your street address. It is the center of your own being. The ring of "Thou art with me" is not the shout of a man signaling a distant ship. It is the quiet of one who has discovered that the ship was never offshore. Do you see that? The end of distance is the beginning of true prayer. Wherever you are, God is. If I make my bed in hell, thou art there. If I ascend into heaven, thou art there also. Whether this hour calls itself failure or success, sickness or strength, grief or gladness, whether you are in a kitchen or in a courtroom, in the valley of the shadow or on a sunny hill, where you are, God is. There is not a God for temples and a different God for back alleys. There are not two presences arguing over your fate. There is one presence, and it is not commuting to find you. Closer to you than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Never forget this. The kingdom of God is within you is not poetry. It is law. It is the way being is. There is no God that's any further from you than your own breathing apparatus. The habit of scanning the horizon, waiting for a letter, a knock, a change in their attitude, a weather shift, is the trance rehearsing separation. Oh, stop such nonsense. You carry your God right with you, wherever you go. You do not have to take a journey, or perfect a ritual, or upgrade your virtue to make God arrive. You have to stop reaching outward, as if reality were outside its own center, and let the center announce itself where it has always been. Now watch how God is turns you, almost without your help, from the rim back to the hub. The eyes stop their anxious grazing. The ears stop eavesdropping on fate. Attention gathers, soft and simple, at the heart of you. Not sentiment, not a swell of feeling, but a recognition of identity. I and the Father are one. Not two trying to meet. One knowing itself. Do you see that? The ground under your very feet, the breath quietly moving, the life that is your life. Holy ground, holy breath, holy life, because God is here. And with that, the practice changes character. We are not repeating "God is" to persuade a distant deity to appear, nor to discover what is hiding. We are repeating because it is the fact, and repetition becomes yielding. The words cease to be a ladder you climb and become a chair you sit in. From effort to consent. From come, come to already, already. Nevertheless, thy will be done is no longer resignation. It is recognition that will and presence are one law, flowering from within to without, as the vine carries life into the branches. So the next time the old impulse reaches outward, up at the ceiling, out at the world, pause. Touch nothing but the quiet inside your own breath. Whisper, not to summon, but to acknowledge. God is here. God is the I of me. Hold a moment. Let the shoulders drop. Let the horizon disappear. In that instant, the trance breaks. Distance dissolves. And grace, finding no gap to cross, moves of itself from the kingdom within into the picture without. Do you see that? Now let us speak plainly of causality. Because if you keep tinkering with the picture, you will blur the very light that would have clarified it. Leave the outer life alone. Do you see that? Do not run out to sandbag the river. Do not begin to lecture your body, your purse, your neighbor, or your calendar. Stop moving the furniture in a dark room. Turn on the light. Inner realization is the cause. Outer harmony is the effect. When you seek first the kingdom within, this inner grace begins to influence your outer life, and the picture yields of itself, quietly, lawfully, without your personal management. Never forget this. If you try to change health, supply, relationships, or circumstances first, you are plucking at leaves. You are polishing symptoms. Oh no, stop such nonsense. The root is within. The vine carries life into the branches. The branch does not pump life up into the vine. In the degree of contact, actually contact, grace acts as the law of your being. And then the so-called things arrange themselves. Not because you have mastered techniques, but because isness is present without a rival. Do you see that? How does it appear? Often so gently that the mind is tempted to deny it did. Decisions that were fogged become plain, and you wonder who made them so. A conversation you feared softens, and the heat goes out of it without a winner or loser. A bill that looked impossible finds an unexpected channel. A rebate here, a forgiveness there, a new work without your pounding at doors. The body, which you were about to bully into goodness, eases. One function regulating, a pain forgetting to announce itself. Sleep returning like a bird that trusts your open hand. Not spectacle, not circus. Added things. Quietly and progressively, as dew finds the leaf. And you did not seize at any of it. You remained at the center with one recognition. God is. Now watch the mind. It will demand proof on your schedule. Where is the sign? Where is the change? How long must I wait? The very questions betray the trance, for they try to time God with a clock and grade God with a ruler. Answer them with practice. Return to God is. Return before you check the symptom, before you refresh the bank app, before you rehearse the conversation. Hold to is until the inner click of assurance is there, and then let grace do its own demonstrating. The demonstration is God's, not the ego's. Do you see that? Leave the outer alone as much as possible. Keep your hands off effects. Tend the cause. Welcome the little evidences without crowing over them, And when the mind rushes to measure, let it meet only this: God is closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. In that abiding, the law is set in motion, and the picture, having no authority to resist grace, must reform in the likeness of the light that governs it. Now there is one more voice the mind will send to keep you out of this holy simplicity, and it wears a pious mask: shame. The trance uses shame as a guard at the gate, and if you salute it, you will stand outside weeping while the feast is set within you. Never forget this. It makes no difference to what degree you have failed, absolutely none, because grace is not a wage for goodness. Do you see that? Grace is not a paycheck for improved behavior. Grace is the life of God being itself. And when contact is made with that which is closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet, the outer is reformed by the nature of that, not by your record. Oh, the mind will come with its ledger. This wrong and that wrong, this omission and that excess. The scolding voice rehearsing every page as if God were an auditor with a red pencil. Stop such nonsense. There is no such God. The Christ message to the thief was not, "First become respectable, and then you may hope." The word was, "Today," and the woman taken in adultery did not receive a lecture. She met a presence, and the sentence sounded like this: "Neither do I condemn thee." Do you see that? Mercy is not leniency towards sin. Mercy is the light that heals the root out of which sin grew. Sins are not only forgiven, they are healed when grace is realized. Therefore, reverse the order you were taught by superstition. It is never a question of first getting good to get God's grace. Oh no, it's the opposite. Get God's grace, and it will make you good. Contact heals the crooked places. Contact untwists the motives. Contact eases the compulsion. Contact makes the very appetite for wrong wither like a vine cut from its root. Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. Is not a line for stained glass. It is the atmosphere you carry until even your own self-accusation stands disarmed before it. 70 times 7, again and again, until the habit of condemnation has no breath left. How quickly may you open to contact when shame barks? Immediately, if you refuse its premise. Do not argue with it. The debate is its food. When shame speaks, do not answer with a counterbrief. Answer with presence. God is. God is. Say it quietly, not to excuse yourself, not to varnish a story, but to dissolve the accuser's office. The accuser cannot stand where is has been recognized, because accusation assumes two powers: guilt with its lash and a God reluctant to love. And we have learned there is one. Do you see that? Make a practice of mercy as the shortest road to contact. Begin with yourself, because a man who is flogging himself cannot hear a still small voice. Then extend it to the next one who comes to mind: enemy, rival, debtor, or the face in your own mirror, and let the inner prayer be simple. Father, forgive. We knew not what we did. Not as sentimentality, but as law. In that atmosphere, the chest eases, the mind unclenches, and assurance returns without a single petition. And you will find, to your quiet amazement, that where you thought you must first renovate your character, the presence, recognized, has already begun the renovation, and the outer life, released from your penalties and open to grace, begins to show it. Hold to this. Shame cannot block grace, unless you agree with it. Withdraw agreement. Return to God is until something lets go, and let mercy, like light at dawn, make visible what was always true. Thou art here, and in thy presence condemnation has no voice. Do you see that? Now we must face the quieter culprits that do not shout like shame, but clog the channel just the same. Animosities, hates, envyings, jealousies, concealed judgments, private verdicts, the stubborn insistence on being right. These are not sins that a distant deity stands ready to punish. There is no such God. Oh no. These are barriers we maintain that obstruct the felt flow of grace. Do you see that? You cannot hate and pray successfully. Stop such nonsense. You cannot hold judgment in one hand and expect contact to stay in the other. Judgment will smother it. Not because God has withdrawn, but because you are hooded in your own weather, while the Son of God is shining, closer to you than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Think of this as spiritual physics. Draw the shades and then complain that the room is dark. Who has punished you? No one. You have interfered with light. Enter prayer with a secret enemy list, faces to scold, rivals to outshine, and then lament the absence of assurance. Who has withheld assurance? No one. Human willfulness has crowded the altar with its idols. I must be right. I must be first. I must be vindicated. Grace cannot break through human willfulness. Do you see that? It is not that grace is reluctant. It is that willfulness is loud, and in its noise, the still small voice seems not to speak. So take an inventory. Not self-torture, just honest housekeeping. Where am I resisting? Where am I insisting on being right? Where am I withholding forgiveness? Where have I rehearsed the injury until it has become my identity? Who am I competing with in secret? Name it. Do not narrate it. Lay it on the altar and soften it with a single recognition. God is. God is here as the life of me and the life of that one. Not to excuse wrongs, not to deny facts, but to take your hands off the lever of condemnation and let grace be law again. Judge not is not a moral slogan. It is a method of keeping the channel clear. Now listen to the hinge on which the door swings. Nevertheless, thy will be done. This is not defeat. This is the end of ego control. This is where the trance breaks wide open. The moment that sentence is real, actually real, you feel something unclench that you did not unclench. You cease arranging the outer chessboard and consent to the presence within to govern its own universe. From that surrender, guidance appears naturally. Steps are given without strain. Mercy toward yourself and others rises uncoached. Do you see that? The branch is no longer trying to pump life into the vine. The vine carries life into the branch. Try it in a small scene. You enter a conversation armed to win, and you feel turbulence. Stop inwardly. God is. Nevertheless, thy will be done. Watch the heat drain from your words, the ears open, the next sentence arrive kind rather than clever. Or the bill lies there like a threat, and the willful fixer prepares to wrestle. Pause. God is. Thy will be done. A quiet, workable step presents itself. One phone call, one reprioritizing, and supply finds a channel you did not bully. Keep this inventory daily. Keep forgiveness in the atmosphere. If you must act, Act from assurance, not from heat. If heat is all you have, wait and return to God is until it cools. Never forget this. Grace is never withheld by God. It is only obstructed by our judgment and willfulness. Surrender removes the barricades. Then, inevitably, the living law moves, inner realization to outer reformation, and the picture yields to the presence that governs it. Do you see that? There comes a point, quietly, without a trumpet, when the practice you have been doing begins to do you. At first you say the words, God is. God is. Patiently, humbly, not to get anything, but to come out of mesmerism. Then one day, without your arranging it, you notice the current has changed direction. The phrase that you were voicing is now voicing you. Do you see that? The effort thins, the sense of me doing relaxes, and presence takes the initiative. It is as if the wind you thought you were fanning into being has become the wind that carries you. You are not making contact. Contact is making you. Now, how do you think that happened? Not by personal will. By grace, in the degree that you stopped managing and simply recognized is. In that moment, the bridge to identity appears. A shy awareness, almost like a first name remembered, rises from within. I am. Not the little I that keeps a calendar, defends opinions, and takes offense. Oh no, stop such nonsense. This I is the quiet center that was present before the calendar and will be after the arguments tire of themselves. It speaks without noise. I am the life of this life. I am the safety of this moment. I am the sufficiency of this day. Do you see that? God has turned, as it must, into I am. Not as a boast, but as a recognition that the life you have been seeking is the life that is being you. This is not grandiosity. It is the end of burden. It is not the ego puffing itself to divine size. It is the evaporation of the ego's load, because the doer is recognized where the doer has always been. More and more, it sounds like this inside. I live, yet not I, but the presence liveth as me. The old posture of me managing life softens into life living as me, thinking its own thoughts, moving my feet to right action, setting my tone before I speak. The yoke ceases to chafe because it is no longer hauled by self-will. It is carried by the one that is closer than breathing, nearer than hands and feet. Now remember, the goal was never perfect repetition. You cannot count your way into God. The goal is that subtle, definite shift where God is reveals the true I as indwelling presence, and the words become fewer because the word has been heard. Be still and know, I am. Not two in conference, one in recognition. And when the sense of two-ness tries to return, as it will, when identity contracts and the old fear puts on its familiar coat, do not argue, do not scold, do not chase it around the room. Return to the simplest fact. God is. Hold there, not with strain, but with that soft fidelity we have learned, until the inner I stands up again of itself. Make it very practical. If you find yourself tightening, timing God with a clock, explaining yourself to shadows, pause. God is, and wait until the echo answers from within. I am. If you lose it 10 times before noon, begin again 10 times before noon. 70 times 7, until the habit of separation has no breath left. In that returning, realization ripens. And as realization ripens, the doer is known, the burden lifts, and the outer life, left mercifully alone, yields to the law of the life that now, actually now, lives as you. Do you see that? Now seal it. Not with a vow, not with a banner, but with behavior. The quiet, continuous kind that says without announcement, God is. Act as if it were so, because it is so. Do you see that? Let your tone carry it first. The first proof of realization is not spectacle. It is a softened voice, an unhurried answer, a refusal to argue with shadows. You pause, one breath. God is. And then you speak. Not to win, but to bless. Not to fix, but to bear witness to presence nearer than hands and feet. Translate it into the smallest acts. Before the email is sent, hold a moment. God is. Now write from assurance, not from heat. Before you correct the child or confront the colleague, yield the tongue to the inner shepherd. God is. And then say only what love can stand behind. On the road, when another driver rehearses your old temper, lay it down at once. God is, and let patience drive the car. At the desk, decline anxious over-planning. Make a simple plan and leave margins where grace may weave. When the mind wants to schedule God, stop such nonsense. Do the next right thing in front of you, quietly, competently, without the fever of what if. Let forgiveness be quick, almost automatic, like a door that swings on oiled hinges. If a memory stings, answer it with presence, not with a counter-accusation. God is, and mercy follows. Pay the bill you can pay today and bless the rest. Make the call that is yours to make and release the outcome. Buy what is needed, not what fear demands. Work from the inside out, vine to branch, and you will find that adequacy and timing appear without your fretting. Do you see that? Now a warning. Do not turn embodiment into performance. You are not acting to earn a result, nor striking poses to convince the world you're spiritual. Oh no, you are acting from realization. If fear returns, and some days it will, do not condemn the return. The condemnation is the trance. Simply step back across the threshold. God is. 70 times 7 if you must. Each return is victory. Each return sands down the habit of separation until it has no edges left to catch you. Keep a simple regimen, not rigid, living. At waking, before the world's voice is in your ear. God is. God is. Let the morning take its shape inside that climate. Brief intervals at thresholds, before the meeting, at the doorway of your home, as the phone rings, at the sink, in the corridor. 2 soft words. God is, until the pressure in the chest forgets to be important. When confusion rises, add the hinge of surrender. Nevertheless, thy will be done. Then wait 10 quiet seconds before you move. The step you receive in that atmosphere will be the right size, the right time. Never forget this. Realization is proved by embodiment. As you live from God is, the trance has less and less place to stand. You become a presence that steadies rooms without a speech, that makes decisions without strain, that meets trouble without a second power to fight. And the picture, obedient to the law of grace, will show it, bit by gentle bit, because the cause has been tended. Walk on, then, not as one performing, but as one belonging to is. God is. God is. And in that knowing, you are free to live, quietly, kindly, fruitfully, today. Do you see that?